What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/ All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we are 3 days away from week 3. Steelers, Chargers, home opener, Acrisure Stadium. I'm positive it's going to be bumping, and well, we get some Jim Harbaugh mixed in there. And from what I've learned in the past couple of days, I'm pretty pumped to just hear the words of Jim Harbaugh anytime he talks. But the Pittsburgh Steelers got some big injury news, from the Chargers to pay attention to. And well, there's some stuff to talk about on the offensive line before we dive into Sunday. Plus, as we do every single day, we'll answer all of your questions. So make sure that you're tossing them in the chat. Nick, it's a good one here in the Berg. It's like 90 degrees outside, it feels like, it's not fall. I would like a little crisp, but I never complain because when it starts snowing, I'm not a snow guy. Like, I like the first snow. We're done after that one. I don't like the cold. I'm cool with crispy. Still, 90 degrees, a little warm. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling pretty good, but at the same time, I agree with you, Lo. It is a little bit warm. I think, especially for the type of ball game we're going to see on Sunday, it needs to be fall weather. We need to have it be a little bit of chill in the air because it's going to be a rock fight. You can't have a rock fight in 98-degree temperatures. That's just not fun. So you need to have that fall atmosphere in Acrisure. And it's kind of crazy that we're in week 3 and we have yet to see the home opener, but I'm excited for this weekend. I'm excited for the walkover this weekend because they always get a little bit rowdy during the home opener. So it should be a fun couple of days in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the walkover yet. To be honest, you're right. I always get harassed one way or another. Last year was, I've been harassed plenty of times doing the walkover over the years, but last year was definitely more aggressive than most. And I still remember the drunk guy who was screaming at the top of his lungs, "Nobody cares, nobody cares." And then a group of fans went over to make sure that they knew they cared. And I was like, my guys, I love you. I appreciate you. I'm excited. I didn't even think about the walkover. It's going to be a good time. I'm very excited for Sunday. I'm very excited to get to Acrisure Stadium. I'm very excited to see the Steelers take on a team that I think is going to be a challenge. But with that challenge comes injuries. And there's some big ones that the Pittsburgh Steelers are monitoring. I know we got 3 of them. What's our news and notes for the day?
Yeah, of course, the one that you're going to monitor the most on the Los Angeles Chargers side is quarterback Justin Herbert. I know the Chargers are a running team, but Herbert is still a massive threat for the Chargers offense. As of right now, limited participant with that ankle injury. So interesting enough, we'll see if he's going to be able to get to full participation by Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that limited is going to keep him out. I think he could not practice today and yesterday and still play on Sunday as long as he got some work in tomorrow. But I think today's that's enough. The Chargers saw, okay, this is cool. He's back on there. If he's limited tomorrow, I think he's good to go. I would be like, they might toss a questionable tag on him just to kind of mess with the Steelers, but I would imagine Pittsburgh's preparing as if Justin Herbert is going to play. The fact that this has been a non-conversation within the Steelers locker room means that they have a pretty good indication he's going to be good to go. And they're not very worried about it. I kind of feel the same way. I look at Justin Herbert as a guy who is a veteran quarterback who's done this before, who's been in this rodeo once or twice in his NFL career, and he's going to be okay. Plus, the last time that the Steelers played the Chargers and played Justin Herbert, he looked like the greatest quarterback to ever live. So I think he's going to be okay, geared up for this one and ready to go. Obviously something to monitor, but the fact that he was on the field today makes me feel pretty positive he'll be out there on Sunday.
Let's shift gears and look towards the Steelers injury report. Good news on one Wilson front as Roman Wilson goes from limited participant yesterday to full participant today with his own ankle issues. Looks like he's gearing up to make his NFL debut.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, the little birdies are telling me that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get their rookie wide receiver back this week, and Roman's going to be good to go. He could not confirm that. The media tried to get it out of him. He's not going to say it. I don't think he is allowed to say it. He shouldn't be allowed to say it. That is a golden rule in the NFL. Do not give your status away because, well, the other team's listening. But I do think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get their rookie back for the first time this entire season. He didn't play any preseason games. He didn't play the first 2 games of the season. He came close last week from what I've heard, and this week he's ready to go. Now, how much will he play? That's the bigger question here. Is Roman Wilson going to get 10 snaps? Is he going to get 20 snaps? It's going to be pretty limited. Anybody who thinks he's coming in here and he's going to be the number 2 wide receiver and Roman's going to have 100 yards and should I pick him up on my fantasy team? What's the over-under on DraftKings or SI Sportsbook? Who knows? Who knows? And I think right now it's a non-conversation because he's going to be out there 8 to 10 times, maybe 15. I tossed 15 out before the show. You said, I'm thinking more like 8. And you're probably right. You're probably right in that 8 to 10 range, but it's not going to be a lot. It's going to be a very limited number of snaps this week. I would imagine a very limited number of snaps next week, and then it starts to move up from there. We'll see where it goes, but still, big day. This is the beginning of the snowball effect. This is the beginning of Roman Wilson's career, something we have highly anticipated for a long time. It will be a disappointing debut, but still a debut nonetheless, and one that marks the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him, and I brought up the numbers for Ladd McConkey of the LA Chargers because I feel like they play a similar role for their respective teams, kind of that mechanic in the offensive, side where they're able to go out there, get open in the short yardage situations and make some things happen with their legs after the fact. And I think that's what Roman's going to bring to the Steelers. But again, he's a rookie that hasn't played in months at this point because of that ankle injury. Remember, he was injured on the first day of full pads back in St. Vincent. So it is going to take some time for him to get into the game plan, take some time for him to get some real live game reps to get his feet underneath him at the NFL level. It'd be great if he came out and immediately was a big part of this offense, but the history of the Steelers, it just doesn't feel like that's something that would happen this weekend.
No, that's what Pittsburgh does. They slow roll everybody. The fact that he didn't play in the preseason only adds to that. Mike Tomlin's going to look at this and say, look, Roman's cool, and we have a lot of expectations for him. Those expectations will start in week 6, maybe week 7, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you're going up against week 6 is Dallas. Week 7 is that Monday night game against the New York Jets. I think it's a really good time for him to start showing out personally. I mean, you got all those nationally televised games back to back to back. I think that would be huge. Week 6 is actually in Vegas, and then it's the Jets. So we always
I was going to say, we just cannot get this schedule down no matter how hard we try. Indy, Vegas, the Jets, and Dallas are all the same. They're all the same week. We're pretty positive that they're just intertwining. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that would be a great time for Roman to make his real big splash for the Steelers. I expect it to come. That's a good time for it.
And then one last piece of injury news. We have Russell Wilson. He is a limited participant with, of course, the calf injury heard around the world. Again, not quite full yet, but apparently, according to you, he's progressing.
Yeah. So he spoke to us today. I won't lie to you. I was not in that scrum. I was talking to Broderick Jones, who I thought was a better interview to be had in that time than, Russell Wilson. I also think it's kind of weird, the Russell scrum, and it's nothing against Russell. Like, this is nothing against Russ. I'm sure he's told what to do, whatever. But I've been here 6 seasons, and in 6 seasons, I've dealt with starting quarterbacks. I've also dealt with injured quarterbacks who were starters, who were injured, and they didn't talk ever. Like, the starting quarterback who was starting that week spoke to us. The rest of them, they didn't say a word. So it just, I don't know how many times you could interview Russell Wilson and just say, how you feeling? Good. That's good. Are you going to play this weekend? Probably not. That's what I thought. Thanks. We'll talk again next week. I just don't know how many times we can do that before he's the starting quarterback. I just feel like that, it's kind of it's annoying it's got to be annoying for him. I wouldn't want to do it. It's definitely not something I want to be involved in. It's just, it's weird. That being said, Russ said he's progressing. He said he did more today at practice than he's done last week or in the last 2 weeks. That's great. I'm going to toss something out here that I think is going to be taken positively by some people and not so good by others. And people are going to agree with it and people are not going to agree with it. I'm starting to hit the point here, dude, where I don't think Russ is going to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. And I don't think it's got anything to do with Justin Fields. I think it's got everything to do with the fact that I don't think Russ is healthy. I don't think Russ is close to healthy. The way I look at it, the way I watch him throw footballs, the way, videos are coming out. I'm there at practice. I'm watching it in person, but everybody else gets to see it in these videos. Justin Fields is rolling out. Kyle Allen's being mobile. Russ is just standing there throwing footballs. And it seems like they give him 1-2 reps of practice to just kind of like get his feet wet and make him feel good. And I'm starting to hit the point where I don't think Russ is anywhere near ready to go. And I don't know if he's going to be ready to go by the time the Pittsburgh Steelers have to decide what way they're going at quarterback, because you can't be ready in week 8 or week 9 or week 10 and be sitting there at, I don't know, if you go into the bye at week 9 and you are 6-2, even 5-3, that's that's Justin Fields' job. You're not going to bench and change everything because you're winning football games and you're all of a sudden just like, Russ gives us a higher ceiling this season, unless there's some hiccups because we're entering the second half, which is much worse. If Russ was very close, I'd be like, okay, look, next week is cool. But me and you have had that conversation of, I think week 4 is when the door really starts to open for this to be Justin's job all season long. And I just don't think Russ is anywhere near walking through that door. I don't think he's even close to coming back to this team. And the way we sit here, I just have a hard time believing. I might say Russ might never play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, he might never play a regular season game for the Steelers. That's where I currently stand. And maybe a hot take, but that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, it's just a crazy concept to me. I mean, you're thinking about it. This was the guy that had pole position, and now it was a calf injury that everybody said, well, it's not that serious. He's just going to miss a couple of days. Well, then we hear, it was a little strong of an injury whenever it initially happened, right? Well, at this point, he's progressing a little bit after 3 weeks after the re-aggravation, which is, again, like Roman Wilson months ago, whenever the initial injury happened, it is certainly starting to get to a point where, like, there has to be a little bit more to this story than, he just tweaked his calf a little bit. And I understand he's 35, but this is a guy that, I've mentioned on this show multiple times, has a history of being very healthy, has missed 5 games in 12 years. And now he's going to miss potentially 3 of his first 3 games in Pittsburgh. It's a scary reality that potentially a lot of people are coming around to. I know you did. I still feel like at some point he's got to be healthy. I understand calf injuries can lead to Achilles injuries, and that is a really touchy subject, especially last year and this year with Rodgers and Dobbins and Cousins. But it still feels like that would be kind of a very severe case that I just don't know if I'm there yet. But it's crazy because I see a lot more people like you getting to that point. Like, we just haven't heard the whole story, and the whole story is probably a lot worse than we're imagining.
That's kind of my thought is, like, Russ could say he's progressing, but Russ told us in the beginning of this, I'm fine. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's no big deal. It's literally nothing. We're being super cautious about it. This is barely an injury. It's a scratch at most. Nothing to worry about whatsoever. That eventually changed to, well, the original injury was pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. What was the aggravation? Was the aggravation nothing? Are you progressing, or are you just kind of saying that? Are we saying these things just to make sure that, we're just saying what needs to be said? Because that's what, I mean, you got to give guys like Russ are media trained. They know how to do this. They know how to have the interviews. They know how to keep themselves relevant in conversation. They know how to disguise things. They're not working with us. I don't interview Russell Wilson or Justin Fields with the thought of, I am their buddy and we are on the same team here. We're not. They understand that I got a job to do and they have a job to do. Their job is to make sure that they can hide as much information as humanly possible from the rest of the NFL. My job is to spread all of the news to the fan base and make sure that the fan base has as much insight on this team as possible. We work together to make sure that we find middle ground, but that middle ground is typically not as informative as the Pittsburgh Steelers inside the building, no, like you're not, Russ is not going to give me all the secrets to his interview or to his injury, because that doesn't do anybody any good. And like where we sit here now, I think there's so much more to this story. So much more to this story. And I just don't see Russ. I don't see Russ progressing fast enough where we stand right now to where he gets there. And we are not too deep into the season. And I don't know where that week is, but like I said, like you can't change quarterbacks with a winning record after the bye week. You just can't do it. Like if you, and even at that point, like you lose one game in a row. Okay, you're not changing quarterbacks. No matter how bad Justin looks, you're not changing quarterbacks. Okay, you lose 2 games in a row. Who are those 2 games to? How bad did you look in those games? What were the reasons for it? You lose 3, yeah, we're talking. But if the Steelers lose 3 games in a row, they're in the doghouse, and this is a tough time. And I just don't see it happening. It's nuts to say, but where we stand right now, I don't see Russ coming back and playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers unless something crazy happens, and this is the NFL. Crazy things happen all the time. But if everything went swimmingly the rest of the year, I think Russ comes in here. He has a great year. He makes $39 million, and the Pittsburgh Steelers pay him one of those millions of dollars. And he's a great leader, and he helps Justin, and then he leaves and either retires or he goes somewhere else, or the Steelers bring him back as a backup and just say, hey, you want to come back and be a backup quarterback again next year? And maybe he does that. I don't know, but I'm moving on from Russ. And where we stand, I just don't think he's going to play. I do want to answer these 2 questions because they fit perfectly into this conversation. Is there any chance that the Steelers know it's Justin's job and they are just doing him a solid by saying he's hurt? No. I thought that at first to like, okay, Russ is going to be injured until the Steelers don't want him to be injured. But we're at the point where it's just you watch practice and you could tell how not healthy Russ is and where everybody else is compared to where Russ is. And it's just a totally different quarterback situation. Like you watch Justin scramble, you watch Kyle Allen move around, and then in the same drill, Russ is catching a snap and just going, that's it. 2-step drop max. Never takes more than a 3-step drop. Almost ever. So I thought that at one point where I stand here, I disagree, man. I think we're close to the end of Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh, and we never got to experience it, which, might stink, but we could go back months. Me and Steven and you were on this show talking about how the Steelers should get Justin Fields, and that's the greatest quarterback option they could have. And the universe works in mysterious ways, but here we are. And it's not what Russ wanted to do, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right. On the other side of this break, I want to talk about Broderick Jones and why I think he might be done for the season. But I did talk to him today, and I think it's worth talking about. Plus, we're going to answer all your questions. I see some of them already in there about trading Russell Wilson, and man, I got some thoughts on that I'm very excited to share. But first, we got a word from our boys over at DraftKings. What's up, guys? It's football season, and we've teamed up with DraftKings. Right now, new customers who bet $5 will receive $250 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, you'll receive 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. It's hard to think of a better way to celebrate fall weather, your favorite jersey, and Sunday touchdowns than with the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings app and use our promo code ALLSteelers. That's $250 in bonus bets instantly and 1 month of NFL Plus Premium after betting just $5. Stay in the action and use your $250 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns on DraftKings. DraftKings is the place to bet touchdowns. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You could still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code ALLSteelers and bet just $5 on any wager and get $250 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code ALLSteelers only at DraftKings Sportsbook. It took almost everything in me not to play the hot dog clip.
I could see you over there struggling with it, like the mental load of like, should I or should I not play the hot dog clip?
Yeah, it was It was a tough one. Still such a phenomenal clip. Such a phenomenal clip. All right, let's talk Broderick Jones real fast, and then we will dive into questions. I'm loving the questions already in the chat here. We got some on there's conspiracy theories out the wazoo in this chat right now. And if you guys know anything about me, it is that I don't believe 90% of conspiracy theories, but I am all in for all of them. I will sit there and listen to you for hours talk about something that I am firmly against, but I'm all for it because somewhere, somehow, it's going to make some sense. And when they're football related, I am always into it. All right, let's talk Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones talked to me and a small group of media today and just dove into him getting benched, what it means for his future, where he stands currently. And he was very open about a lot of stuff. And I got to give him a ton of credit. Like, it's a story where tomorrow or tonight, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to break it all together and I'm going to put it out tomorrow morning. And the reason I won't rush it is because, quite frankly, I don't want to make him look like a jerk. I don't want Broderick to look like a dude who is coming off in any sort of way, because he was incredibly respectful in this interview and incredibly insightful in this interview and honest. And that's what you're looking for, is honesty. And Broderick was as honest as he gets, and I don't want him to be taken in any sort of negative light, because it shouldn't be taken in any sort of negative light. Now, he opens the interview by saying that, you F up, you're going to get benched. That's what's going to happen. So he was very open that is what went on. But I talked to him. I talked to a couple of veteran linemen, and I've spoken to some former NFL linemen just casually. And what I have gathered is, I'm not exaggerating here, not one person I have spoken to who has played offensive line in the NFL over the course of the past couple of days while I'm doing this agreed that the Steelers should be rotating right tackles. And every one of them have said, yeah, maybe they'll continue to do it, but they should not continue to do it. And a lot of them have said they won't continue to do it. What I'm hearing is that there's still a possibility, but that possibility is very, very, very slim. Very slim. But that's okay, because the Pittsburgh Steelers have made it known to Broderick Jones that he is still the future of the left tackle. That is what he told me. That this is not changing anything. Broderick Jones is still the guy that they look at as the next franchise piece to this offensive line, and that is what they will develop him as. In my eyes, what that means is that for right now, Broderick Jones is getting shut down. Broderick Jones is going to be a dude who will only play extra tackle, who will only play swing tackle when needed. But Dan Moore has allowed almost zero pressures statistically, and Troy Fautanu is now your right tackle. They are not going to continue to rotate. We could talk redemption all day. It's not going to happen. And the Steelers are incredibly open when it comes to communication. You are allowed to express your opinion. Mike Tomlin will tell you whether or not you need to shut up, or he's going to consider it. And I think this time, with everybody saying it's not going to work, he's going to consider it. And Broderick will not be rotating. Now, I have no direct confirmation here. This is all interpretation. But from what I have gathered, the reporting I've done, the people I've spoken to, it's just Mike Tomlin might be the only person in the universe who thinks that this is worth doing. And I think he has enough voices around him right now telling him, dude, you're messing up big time by doing this. Please stop. The way I look at this is Broderick's season is over, except for being a swing tackle. He will not be a starter in 2024. And then 2025, he steps back into that role. But for right now, this is a shut him down, regroup, be very open and honest and communicate very well with him, and we'll pick it up next season when he grows. I think it's the best idea for him. And where we stand, I would be very shocked if Broderick Jones gets some right tackle in this game. If anything, maybe some left tackle down the road. But everybody that I've spoken to, it's over. Broderick is officially the backup where he should be and where it helps moving forward. So where I stand, we're shutting down the rotation of the right tackle.
We talked about it last week, and I think we both agreed that it was what was best for Broderick to bench him, move him to left, and allow him to kind of regain his footing on the left while Dan Moore is playing at a decent level. And I think that that's where they need to go. Now, you said the door seems to be closed on Broderick starting this season. I don't know if I would go that as far as to say this season personally. I know you're the one that's in the building, you're the one that's talking, but just in my eyes, I feel like this is an opportunity for the Steelers to sit Broderick, let him reacclimate to the left side, and let Dan Moore be the determining factor in whether or not that door opens. I would say if it's closed, it's not locked, because there is an opportunity and there's a chance that Dan Moore does turn out to struggle a little bit or an injury persists. And I think at that point, the door opens up again for Broderick. And I think if he's able to get his feet underneath him back at left tackle, his natural position, especially if that elbow gets a little bit healthier, I think you start to see him come out of what appears to be a sophomore slump. His demise has been greatly exaggerated by Steelers Twitter. I think that this is too early to call him a bust. I think what he needs is to be able to get healthy and to be able to be put in the right position. And I think that takes a little bit of time. Fortunately for the Steelers, they have a right tackle that is a rookie that has looked to be up to the challenge in Troy Fautanu. Short sample size, but he looks to be up to the challenge. And they have a veteran going into his, fourth, fifth year, whatever it is, Dan Moore, who is playing at a pretty good level right now. So they are afforded the time and the opportunity to let Broderick reset. And he is an important piece to their future to where they should afford him that time. I don't know why they went to the rotation. I'm glad that it sounds like they're shutting it down. And if he sits for a few weeks and that door comes open, that's fine. Yep. I just don't feel like I'm ready to say the door is closed and locked at the same time this season.
I agree. I don't think it's closed and locked. I don't think it's closed and locked by no means, but I think it's closed and locked in a rotation, at right tackle. Like maybe left tackle, just like you said. And maybe you put him back out there at right tackle. I don't know. I don't know. And I think the best thing is for the Steelers to somehow end this season with Troy Fautanu and Broderick Jones as their tackles and feel really good about it. Like you're not going to force the issue, but if the issue naturally presents itself, great. That's, you're in a great spot. But I don't think in week 3, Broderick is going to be a guy that we see much on the field. I don't think in week 4, Broderick is going to be a guy that we see much on the field. And I think Mike Tomlin has so many voices in his ear right now that he might start listening to them, which is good, because Mike Tomlin makes terrible decisions all the time. He makes fantastic ones. He also makes undeniably wild decisions that everyone can see is a bad idea. And he is, for a guy who is so in a vacuum, you'd think he'd have somebody in that vacuum saying, "Dog, don't do this. This is not what you want to be doing." And he just doesn't have that. But I agree with you. I'm not locking the door on this. I'm not locking the door, but I do think that Broderick's on the outside of that door, and he's gonna wait for it to open. He's not gonna knock. He's gonna sit there, and the Steelers are gonna see how the season progresses before they let anybody else in the door. That is Broderick Jones.
Yeah, right. And if he's going to knock, by the way, make sure he uses his left arm, because he can't extend his right arm.
He can't extend the right arm. He can't extend the right arm. The brace is massive, man. I wish you could see it in person. I mean, these human beings are massive.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Dylan Cook today. I was walking behind Dylan Cook in the hallway, and I was like, "Dylan, when did you get so tall?" And he was like, "I don't know, like 22. He was like, "It was nuts because I always thought I had like really serious knee issues." He said, and then I had a growth spurt, and that's when they stopped hurting is when I knew that's when I was done with my growth spurt. And I was like, "Wow, dude, does this mean that I'm going to get taller? Does this mean I have a growth spurt coming at 29 years old?" I'd be pretty pumped. I don't think it's going to happen, but these guys are massive. That brace is huge. That brace is so huge, but he is hopefully knocking with the left side on the left side of the door. All right, let's dive into some questions. We got some real good ones today, so I'm very excited for them. If you guys have them, please toss them in the chat. We'll make sure to answer all of them before we head out of here. What do we got?
Let's start with Dalton, who was in here early with this one. Says, random idea, but what would you think about moving Broderick to left guard on the interior of the offensive line?
No. He's not a guard. He's never played guard. We're not moving guys to guard. Guard is a totally different position than tackle, like 100% a different position than tackle. Just the easy answer is no here. No.
I vote let him play his natural position, but that's just me.
Yeah, like or the right tackle. Like you could learn swing tackle.
Mm-hmm.
It's way different than saying you're going to actually go play guard, which is totally, you are fully in the phone booth in guard. It is a wildly different position No.
Let's go over to Marlon Lewis, who says, will Roman Wilson need to be a full participant tomorrow to play on Sunday?
Yes. Yes. If I had to imagine, Roman's got to be a full tomorrow. And if he's a full tomorrow, then he will play on Sunday, hopefully without an injury designation, but it could be questionable. We'll see. But yes, tomorrow he's going to have to be full.
Let's go to Marlon's second question that was right after this. And he said, will this be the Patrick Queen game defensively?
I hope so. I don't know. I hope so. I don't know. I don't have issues with Patrick Queen. Like, he's missed. His eyes are like, or his angles are not the greatest all the time, but the Steelers have the best defense in football right now. So I just don't, I'm not picking out the bad parts of them because there are no bad parts. Like, if you're giving up 16 points over 2 weeks, you're okay. Doesn't matter if your inside linebackers come up with 15 tackles or not. He's doing enough. Everybody else is doing enough. It just kind of feels okay. I don't know if it'll be a breakout game for him. I don't know if anybody's going to have a breakout. I don't think anybody's had a breakout game yet. You know, like, not even TJ had the first one, which was nuts. But that's like, TJ was expected, you know, and nobody else has had like oh my gosh, this is a nuts game by any of them. And I just, Deshaun Elliott, but he's just collectively been nuts, if we're just going to be honest. I just think the rest of the defense is just all collectively looked very good.
I think this weekend's also a Landon Roberts time to shine. Look how much LA likes to run the ball, pound it in your face. Landon welcomes that challenge. And you talked to him yesterday. He seemed giddy to go up against this running attack. So I'm excited to see what he's able to do on Sunday.
Yep. Agreed.
Let's go over to DKB, who has a pair of questions here. First, is it me, or have we not used Connor Hayward or DeMarvin Leal on their respective sides of the line?
DeMarvin Leal's played, but he, hasn't played as much as I don't know. He's played probably as much as I expected him to. I don't want to say that. I didn't expect DeMarvin Leal to come in here and have like a monster impact on the line. I mean, Isaiah Loudermilk is the guy that's behind Cam Hayward, and they're going to use him on running downs. And on passing downs, like, Larry Ogunjobi's great at pass rush, and so is Cam Hayward. And you're going to try like 3 inside linebacker looks with Nick Herbig before you go with a DeMarvin Leal. So I would say no, that one hasn't surprised me. Connor Hayward's shocked me. He has played a shockingly low number of snaps, especially for a team that doesn't have wide receivers and they need wide receivers. Connor Hayward has fantastic hands. So he's not the most athletic guy. He might be the least athletic guy outside of jumping over people, but he probably has the best hands on the team outside of George Pickens, and I would try to utilize him. So that one surprises me. DeMarvin Leal doesn't really, though.
Let's go over to the second question for DKB17. Says, with Red, TE, and now Pierre Island all back with the team, are there any other former Steelers that you'd like to see be brought back?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Are there any wide receivers potentially that are floating out there? Deontay Johnson, but that
James
would be a no.
Washington.
No.
Martavis Bryant.
No. Big no and big no. Yeah,
Antonio Brown might still be in shape. I don't know.
AB would come back. I would bring AB back. I'd bring AB back because I personally wouldn't have to deal with them. And I kind of want to cover AB. I've never covered AB. I just missed him. That's my biggest regret in this industry, is I showed up a year late. But no, I don't think so, to be honest. There's not many that stand out right now.
Let's go
Chase
over
Claypool. Chase Claypool
is
still a no
for the season.
Not for the season. He, injury settlement. He'll come back eventually, but it's still a no. Steven Sims, potentially. Not a bad one.
There's options. There's plenty of options. Speaking of, let's see if there's a return on Isaac Seumalo. That's what Caleb and Kevin both want to know.
Hasn't practiced yet, so I would imagine next week is the attempt to try to get him out there. We'll see. I would imagine next week is when they are going to try to push him a little bit, just because you didn't put him on IR, so you expected him to be back within 4 weeks. Next week's 4 weeks. I could see next week is the week they try to just see what they have in him, see if he is available. But no, he hasn't done anything yet.
Let's go over to Tim Hopper, who wants to know, with Fields improving every game, even after a loss, is Wilson worth the risk, considering he's been injured all season and the re-injury rate for things like calves are high?
Yeah, I think that it comes down to what does that loss look like? Is it a loss that it looks really bad offensively and they just can't get it done? Does Justin Fields lose the Steelers the game, which could happen? If that's the case, then you think about Russ. But if the Steelers lose 24-21 and Justin Herbert lights up the scoreboard and the Steelers offense tries and they look good, but they just couldn't keep up, that's a different question. So I think it comes down to what does that loss look like and what does the offense and Justin Fields specifically look like in that loss. If it's bad, I think you consider Russell if he's healthy enough, but I don't think he is. If it's not that bad, and that's tough to describe, like what is a not bad loss. Mm-hmm. But if the offense looks competent in it, if Justin Fields doesn't look like the issue, I don't think you make a change. No.
Let's go over to AJ, who says, is it crazy to suggest we trade Dan Moore while his stock is high? I feel like a starting capable left tackle would fetch a lot on the trade market, and we could desperately use another receiver.
I don't know how much a starting capable left tackle gets in week 3 unless there's an injury. And I don't know any injuries. Maybe there are some that I'm missing out on, but I don't know any. That being said, there are reasons you don't make this trade right now. The reason one is he's playing pretty good football. And, why are you going to take a step backwards with Broderick? Even if Broderick's the future, it's a step backwards right now. He's not playing as good as Dan is. 2, you don't have a swing tackle at all because Dylan Cook is on IR. So when Dylan Cook comes back, maybe it's a conversation to be had depending on how Dan looks and how Broderick looks in practice. But I just don't see the Steelers being in a situation where that makes sense for them. And when it comes to a wide receiver, you probably could, but it's a Dan Moore level wide receiver, which is like you're not coming away with Devontae Adams or Cortland Sutton for Dan Moore. That's just not going to happen.
Let's get into the, as you call them, what did you say? You love the Russell Wilson speculation.
The
conspiracy theories. Couldn't think of that word. Let's get into the conspiracy theory segment of this one. Let's start with William. Is Tomlin playing games with Wilson's injury and saving Russ for the second half because it's a rough schedule?
Yes, love this. No, he is not. And in fact, the Steelers, the last thing they want to do is put Russ out there in the second half without giving him a first half of the season. Like, you're just not going to, there's going to be no mojo with your wide receivers. There's going to be no mojo with your offensive line or with your running game. You're going to have no connection with Arthur Smith. You can't step into a football game. This is an 11-man group. The quarterback runs it, which means he's got to have the strongest connection with everybody. Right now, Russ is playing with the third stringers in practice, which means that he's not getting the connection with George Pickens. He's not getting the connection with Pat Freiermuth or with Calvin Austin or with Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren or Darnell Washington or Arthur Smith or any of these guys. He's just being third string quarterback. So until that happens, until you could grow that mojo, you're not going to have any. And I would hate to put a guy out there against the Philadelphia Eagles or the Baltimore Ravens or the Cincinnati Bengals or the Cleveland Browns. You could probably get away with Washington, but the rest of them, yikes. It would be a big, giant yikes to say, there you go. Have fun. Go see what happens and just ruin everything that you just built. So I look at it like a rookie. You wouldn't toss a rookie. People always talk, oh, you would really want this guy to make his debut against this team? No. And that's the same with Russ right now. You don't want him to make that debut in week 11 against the Ravens.
Let's go over to William's second question here and says, should we consider trading Russ while there may be an upside and unload him while we can and maybe also get a wide receiver?
Yeah, this is another great one. I don't think you're unloading Russ for anything because he has a no trade clause. So the place that he goes has to be fitting for Russ. There has to be some opportunity there. I don't know a team that has that opportunity right now, nor a team that's going to be looking to put that opportunity into play. Like the Dolphins were probably the team, but they're not going to trade for an injured quarterback and say, hey, here's one of our wide receivers. Here's a guy with one calf. Have fun. Chances are there's an Achilles coming next. I just don't think that's going to happen. And there's just no other, like the Raiders maybe, but again, They're not looking for an injured quarterback. It's just not part of the plan. It doesn't work out both ways. You're not going to trade an injured Russ and get anything in return, and Russ isn't going to be open to going somewhere where he doesn't have an opportunity.
Steven wants to know, Noah, do you think that Russ was the original plan at quarterback, but once they got Fields, Mike Tomlin decided it's Fields because of the reasons we keep saying, and he's using Russ as a leader and someone to lean on for Fields?
This is the one, Steven. This is the one. So, so the answer is no. The answer is no, because they didn't get Justin was always considered the backup option. Justin was, when it was Kenny Pickett was still here and they were trying to get Justin Fields, Justin Fields was coming to be a backup to Kenny Pickett. As crazy as that sounds, I don't make these decisions. Okay. So this is not me. I'm not the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but Justin Fields was the backup to Kenny Pickett. Russ shows up. Russ is the starter. He's a guy. The Steelers believe they could take him there. Okay, great. Kenny's the backup. The only reason you got Justin was because you needed another backup with potential to carry this team in the exact situation that the Pittsburgh Steelers are in currently, where Russ gets injured. That's where they stand. They wanted a backup quarterback in case their starting quarterback or something happened, because they firmly believe this is a year where they can make a run in the playoffs. That's where the Steelers stand. It changed most likely when Justin played week 1 and didn't look terrible. Then the thought process started to flow. And week 2, it probably started to flow a little bit more. And now in week 3, maybe it starts to flow a little bit more depending on how he plays. The regular season is when Tomlin and everybody's mind started to change, not beforehand. And I'll be honest, like, Justin took some steps forward in training camp, but he never once took a step forward that was strong enough where you said, that guy is an incredible starting quarterback and you have to make him the starter. No questions asked. He didn't really look that good. So I would say that started to change in the season. Didn't start to change when they traded him.
Kobe1 Kenobi wants to know, watching how things worked out here in Pittsburgh with Russ and Justin, do you think Kenny Pickett is punching the air right now?
Probably. I would say yes. I will say this though. I just don't think Kenny's a good quarterback in the NFL. Like, I just don't. I don't think he's got the deep ball. I don't think he's got Justin Fields' processing is slow. Kenny's just kind of like sporadic. Like, he kind of freaks out in the pocket. So I just don't think it would work. But yeah, he's definitely not happy about how things went down and how he missed an opportunity. But, you know, he's back in Philly, and he was a Philly fan. So maybe that's cool enough for him.
Let's go to this next question. It is a draft question, which is, do you think we finally go first or second round receiver in the 2025 NFL draft?
The Steelers are notoriously known for second round wide receivers. So that's a big thing in Pittsburgh is that second round pick. They've come up with some good ones and some not so good ones, but George Pickens is the latest good one, and that one's a phenomenal one. I think potentially second round, potentially third round is where we're looking for wide receivers where we currently stand. You don't know what's going to happen at quarterback. Maybe Justin's the guy in a year and that changes things. Then you don't have to worry about a quarterback. But if you need a quarterback, that's round 1. Defensive line is probably on there as well. And cornerback is probably on there as well. So it just depends on what those needs are come draft time and what this situation is looking like. Because you could go out there and re-sign Isaiah Loudermilk and, you know, you really have no issues. At that point, you're feeling totally fine with your defensive line and great, cool. You could re-sign Larry Ogunjobi. Everything's taken care of. No worries there. But if you're looking for rookies and you're looking to change, then yeah, you might consider a defensive lineman before anything else.
Bert Butler wants to know, how long do you think we'll stay undefeated? Where's our first loss in your mind?
It could be this weekend. I'm not going to guess that it is. Like, our predictions come out tomorrow. I'll let you guys know now. The Steelers are my pick to win. But this weekend's the first challenge. Next weekend's a challenge too. I mean, Indianapolis is not easy. And then you go to Vegas. So I would say this weekend, next weekend is a possibility. If not, it could be Dallas or the Jets, whatever one they play first.
Yeah, I'm glad we're picking tomorrow because I'm still kind of waiting to see how Justin Herbert progresses. I'm not sure where I'm going to go because preseason, this was one of the games that I had earmarked as a loss. But again,
you did.
Home opener, Justin's opened my eyes. The other Justin, Herbert, is a little banged up. So I'm waiting to get all the information before I officially make my pick. But I think this weekend is a tough test for the Steelers.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Let's go to the next question here. Why aren't they using Calvin Austin's speed more?
I think they are. I would like to see him have like a go route here and there. I definitely would, but I don't know like where else you want to go with Calvin Austin. Do you want him to do? Could you imagine if they did an end around? People would lose their mind. Be like, "Are you kidding me? This is what a jet sweep? We're doing jet sweeps again." So it's tough. It's tough. But I don't know. I don't know how you interpret it more outside of go routes. And if you did you listen to Mel Kiper's rant today?
About cover 2? Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes, about cover 2. Unbelievable. World-class rant. Sounded like it made zero sense. And my gosh, was it not good at all and did not make him look good whatsoever. But opened a lot of people's minds to maybe Calvin Austin can't run deep balls because there's 2 safeties down there at all times. So who knows? I don't know how to fix it, to be honest. I don't know if they're not utilizing it correctly or if he's, just a guy like, yeah, you could have a bunch of speed, but what are you going to do with that speed? And we're kind of waiting on Calvin to show us what he can do with that speed.
Let's go over to Samuel. He says, Noah, when are you going to sport a, and I can't give you all the ingredients to the hot dog, you might not like it t-shirt, or a none of your businesses respectfully sweatshirt?
Yeah, that's both of them are good. The none of your businesses respectfully that's an iconic Tomlin phrase that just gets every time he says something like that. We don't talk about it. It's not included in the Tomlinisms. It's a damn good phrase there. It's a damn good phrase. But all the ingredients to a hot dog it is a good one. You might have stirred the pot here a little bit. I might spend I have a dinner date with the wife before Thursday night football because I'm always doing something when it comes to covering football. But that might have to be put on the back burner to do some t-shirt designs. So we'll see.
Let's go to Emery, who says, how do y'all feel about starting McCormick over Daniels? In my opinion, Daniels has had more struggles than the rookies and Dan Moore.
Yeah, I agree. I think Daniels looks like the worst offensive lineman for the Steelers right now. And I don't know why it's not getting go back and watch the tape against Denver. There are some plays that are very, very bad. I mean, there are some plays that are bad for Broderick, like really bad for Broderick. There are some plays that are really bad for James Daniels. That was the same against Atlanta. It was the same in the preseason. Maybe it's the scheme. I don't know, but he just is not getting the job done. That being said, I'm not putting Mason McCormick in there right now. In my eyes, you're just 3 rookies is way too many rookies. Maybe when Isaac comes back, you consider Spencer on the other side, but right now, Mason is not an option in my eyes.
Let's go to Samuel Callaway, who says, is Deshaun Elliott the best safety to play alongside Minkah Fitzpatrick over previous safeties?
Yeah, I mean, easy. And that's just talent alone. Deshaun Elliott has been the best safety the Steelers have had outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick since they acquired Minkah Fitzpatrick. He is an absolute stud. And I mean, I'm a big Edmonds fan. I like Rel, and I think he could play a role in this defense at some point. I like KZ for the role that he plays in Pittsburgh. Deshaun Elliott is a stud he is meant for AFC North football. And to be honest, he's meant to play in Pittsburgh or in Baltimore. That's where he's going to shine. He's here and he's shining. He is shining.
Philip wants to know, is this the year that TJ Watt gets the defensive player of the year again?
I hope so. I hope so. I think TJ, he's got some competition. Keon White's looking like a monster in New England. Max Crosby looks fantastic. Aiden Hutchinson looks unbelievable right now.
I was going to take a quick victory lap on that one because I brought him up preseason and he had 4.5 sacks last week.
You did. It should have been 5. If we're going to be honest, should have been 5. They did him so dirty on that half a sack. Unbelievable. I don't know. I'm always rooting TJ. I think TJ is a good dude, but I don't know, man. They look there's some tough edge rushers in the NFL this year. It's fun to watch. So we'll see. We'll see.
There's a lot of season to go. Season to go. Let's go over to Steven, who says, what two teams do you think can actually move the ball on our defense? Got to pick one AFC and one NFC.
What two teams do you think can actually move the ball on the defense? Detroit would be my answer in the NFC. They, I mean, Philadelphia would also be an answer, but I think that's an easy answer. But I would say Detroit. I would say Detroit. Detroit's got the offensive line to do so. And I'm not like the Saints. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon of the Saints and the Bucks yet. I'm just not yet. So I'm going proven Lions. In the AFC, I mean, Kansas City is the easy answer, but we'll avoid that answer. I'm going to go. I think I'd go Buffalo. I think I would go Buffalo. Buffalo looks like Buffalo is the most underrated team of football right now, in my opinion. And James Cook looks real good. So I'm thinking ground game, and I would pick those two.
Let's go over to AJ, who says, could we see some ramped up action from Jaylen Warren this week? I've been disappointed in his usage to this point.
Yeah, he took a step forward last week. I think he'll take another step forward this week. I mean, he's dealing with the hamstring injury, and Tomlin was very open about that, about, hey, we're gonna kind of try to keep him healthy throughout the entire season because hamstring injuries linger. And I think that's the right thing to do, especially when you got a third running back in Cordero Patterson, and you could run the tires off of Najee this season and feel pretty good about it. So I would expect it to slowly ramp up, but I believe that they're also going to hold back just to keep him healthy. So they're not going to use him more than they could or more than they should.
Let's go over to Robert, who says, what about DJ Moore reuniting with Justin Fields?
I mean, that would be awesome, but the Bears just paid him, I'm pretty sure. So
over $100 million.
Yeah. So not going to happen. Not going to happen. But they could use a Dan Moore. They could use a Dan Moore, James Daniels. You could toss anybody you want out there. The Chicago Bears, anybody who wants to talk about, did Justin Fields have the right opportunities in Chicago? Go watch Caleb Williams run for his life every single weekend and tell me that 7 sacks and 11 quarterback hits is a game that you could succeed in, because you're not gonna.
Let's go over to Chris, who says, do you see Beanie Bishop having more game time this week?
I mean, no. I think he's fit into the game plan the way that the Steelers want him to fit in the game plan. He's playing pretty well. He's a sub package guy. When they need a nickel out there, he's going to play in the nickel. But besides that, like, he's not going to just be out there unless they're in a nickel package. So I would say the answer to that is no, but they're not underutilizing him. I think they're utilizing him as much as they should be.
Let's go to Grayson, who says, how mobile do you guys expect Justin Herbert to be this weekend?
I don't know. I got a hard time believing that it's going to really limit him. It might limit him a little bit, but I got a hard time believing that he's not going to be able to run at all. But I don't know. That's such a tough call because I'm not watching him in practice, so I don't have the insight to how limited that mobility is. So the answer to that question is a guess, and my guess is a little limited, but not non-mobile.
Let's go to Deuce, who says, is this finally the week where Minkah makes a splash play and forces a takeaway?
Maybe. But it's kind of like Joey Porter Jr. at this point. Teams are just looking at him and saying, I'm good, pal. We'll go somewhere else. And eventually you're going to be forced into throwing to Minkah. You're going to be forced into throwing to Joey Porter's side. But the opportunities are just not there because, for one, the pass rush is unreal. And two, teams are just looking at it and they're avoiding that side. If offenses are going 3 and out and 3 and out and 3 and out, it's not a matter of not forcing splash plays. It's a matter of those opportunities are just not there right now because the offense is not giving you the opportunity to come up with a splash play.
Let's go over to Vintage, who says, say we get all the way to the big game and don't get it done, but Justin looks decent. Is it worth drafting a quarterback first round or running it back with the possibility of winning it with him next year?
The big game as in the Super Bowl?
That's the only big game I know.
If the Steelers make it to the Super Bowl, whoever the quarterback is in the Super Bowl, I could 100% guarantee you is the Super Bowl or is the starting quarterback in week 1 the next week. But I hear where you're coming from. If you don't win it and Justin looks decent, but you still lose, and maybe he's asking for money. There's a lot that goes into this hypothetical, so it's a good question. I would still say that my odds are Justin comes, especially 25 years old. Like if you're going to take the Steelers to the Super Bowl, even if you don't win it, unless you're going somewhere else to get a bag, which if that's what you're looking to do, great. The Steelers are not going to pay you $40 million a year after one good season. But if you're looking to run it back and see if you could do it again and then make a boatload of money, I think Pittsburgh would welcome him back with open arms.
Let's go to Kobe1 Kenobi again, because I love that username. He says, let's say things don't pan out this season with Russ or Justin. Do you go quarterback next season in the draft? And if so, then who's your target?
Yeah, I mean, the first pick would be the quarterback. Carson Beck is a name to watch. I'd say Quinn Ewers, but he just got benched for Archie Manning, which is nonsense. True. Very true.
He's injured. So.
Very true. Very true. I hope he still goes first round. I think Quinn Ewers is Baker Mayfield, and that's a good quarterback right there. Mm-hmm. Quinn Ewers could be an option. Carson Beck could be an option. You got to look like, Drew Aller could be an option, but he might work himself into the top half of the first round. It's just a matter of where you're sitting in the draft and how far you can move up in the draft. The Steelers are not going to be one of those teams that give up 3 first-round picks to go get a quarterback. They might give up the next year's first-round pick to go get a quarterback, but that's probably as far as they're going to go. So they're going to wait for somebody to fall to them. You got to think end of the first round. I would say those names are probably the best bet right now.
Let's finish it off with this one from Adam. He asks, why are we playing very conservative and always have been because of this top defense? Shouldn't we be trying the opposite and playing aggressive knowing we have such a good defense behind us?
Look, your perspective is a good one. Okay. Like your thought process here is good. And it, like you could support that thought, but it's very difficult to win in the NFL. And that's the biggest thing here, is that it is very difficult to win in the NFL. And one mistake can cost you the game. Look at the Baltimore Ravens are a perfect example right now. The Baltimore Ravens play conservative football and succeed doing it. They're at least 1-1 right now. At least 1-1. It's difficult. And I get it. You could be aggressive, but all it takes is one turnover on their side of the 50, and 13-6 becomes 14-13. And now you're playing from behind. And that's not what you want. So I hear you out. And I think the Steelers should be not aggressive, but just continue to play normal offensive football. Stop getting so conservative. Just continue to play like you're trying to score points without throwing the football 60 yards down the field. You can do that. There is a happy medium. I don't know about aggressive, but I also don't think conservative is the answer. But there's also an explanation behind it, and I understand the explanation behind it because I've watched Tomlin do it so many times it starts to make sense to me.
Yeah, you watch Tomlin preach turnovers and field position all the time, and that's because his formula for winning is controlling the ball, not turning it over, and winning, especially special teams, winning the punting battle and stuff like that. It's not a fun brand of football to watch, but hey, there's a reason that he has never had a losing season. As much as I hate having that brought up, he's won a lot of games in this league with that formula. Not exciting, but it works. But that is a wrap for today's question.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. Tomorrow, we will be an afternoon podcast. I know Fridays flip-flop depending on the news cycle and travel and so on and so forth. But with Justin Herbert, Roman Wilson, and who knows, Russell Wilson, maybe injury updates coming later in the afternoon, we will wait until about 4:00 to let this podcast rip and ready to go. With that said, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.